Hey there, it is Rachel, and in my most recent podcast episode, I have been focusing on the topic of resentment. Because chances are, being home right now, you're probably doing a lot more at home to make things run as smoothly as possible, and things are taking longer these days at home to get done. And if you don't have more help, you may feel really resentful. The reality is, though, there was a lot of resentment even before all this happened, and there's probably going to be a lot of resentment afterwards. So I wanted to talk about what the best way to deal with resentment is. And there are a couple of ways, but one of the most important, if you want to feel less resentful, is to set boundaries. If you think about it, most of the reasons you're feeling resentful are because you are not consistently setting boundaries. For example, let's say you're resentful because your kids always want to have fun and play, and they don't want to clean up after themselves. Chances are you haven't set a really firm boundary and stuck to that boundary that they need to clean up after themselves, so they're going and playing. Or maybe you're resentful because you don't get any time to yourself. Chances are, if you're resentful that you're not getting time to yourself, you haven't set a boundary and said, I am going to have time for myself now, and then figured out how to give other people things to do so that you could absolutely have that time to yourself. And I know that one of the reasons it's so hard to set a boundary is because it is not something that immediately feels good. Very honestly, when we set a boundary, there's a lot of discomfort in that moment because people get upset with us, and we may even feel guilty or bad, or we just don't want to deal with the repercussions. So what we tend to do when we are experiencing this discomfort is we take the easy way out to end that discomfort quickly, and then we don't maintain our boundaries, and then our resentment builds. So I talk more about this in the episode, but what I wanted to do in this video is give you a couple of quick things to think about as you are setting boundaries, so you know what it can sound like and what's going to make it more likely that you're going to actually follow through. So here's what I suggest you do. Number one, whenever you're setting a boundary, start with respecting the other person's perspective. Then use the word and then state your perspective. And then the third piece of this, after you've respected their perspective, stated the boundary that you are setting, the third piece is expect it to be uncomfortable. And don't change just because it's uncomfortable. So for example, if you want your kids to help out more around the house, you might say something like, you know what? It is more fun to play. I know you just got those new games, and it's much more fun to do that than to help out. That's you stating their perspective. Then the next thing you could say is, and I need you to help out. I want you to clean up your dishes after dinner. So you're telling them what you need. You put an and in there, and then you tell them what you need. Now, they're not going to be happy about this. They may even need help with it. They may need help figuring out how to not give into that impulse to go play right after dinner when you've asked them to clean up. It's going to be uncomfortable. Setting boundaries doesn't feel good at first, and it may even feel bad for the next day or the next week. Ultimately, though, it feels bad not to set boundaries. It feels bad to set boundaries, but in the long run, setting boundaries is going to lead to a much more positive result. So again, what you want to think about is, number one, respecting their perspective, stating your boundary, and then expecting it to be uncomfortable. So maybe you need the boundary of setting more time for yourself. What you may say to your kids is, I know you want, I'm doing a lot of other things during the day, and you really want to be with me, and I want to be with you too. And I still need this 30 minutes to myself, and I'm going to go take it. So you're setting that boundary, and you're expecting that they're not going to like it, that it's not going to feel good at first, that you may have to teach them some tools in order to leave you alone, but you're still maintaining that boundary. So respecting their perspective, respecting your perspective by maintaining the boundary, and expecting it to be uncomfortable can help you actually find words to set the boundaries, but also make it more likely that you are going to follow through. And that is the key to reducing resentment in the long run. So if you want to hear more about this, I suggest you head on over to my podcast episode. It's on my website at rachel-bailey.com/31. And there is even a download on my website that you can click on. You can download it, and it will give you the steps for setting boundaries more effectively. I look forward to seeing you again next time.